5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. It's all in the house with the Bad Crypto Podcast, and I'm never going to start a show like that again.
Please do not. That was horrible.
Joel, I'm Joel, New York Times bestselling author, futurist, technologist, marketing dude, and eternal 12-year-old, and I'm here with marketing technologist, author of the book Digital Sense, Mr. Travis Wright. Give it up.
Yes, Joel is a New York Times best-selling author. I am a medium-selling author.
You're a sign of the times best-selling author.
Yes.
Hey, welcome to episode number 4, Quattro, for those of you in the Latin regions of the world, because cryptocurrency is an international thing, and we do want to appeal to all places, right?
So he said quattro. That's as much as international flavor as we have so far.
C. Quattro coin. It's going to be a thing
We
still.
are branching out, folks.
We are super pumped up about this podcast because you're pumped up about this podcast. I'm just amazed, astounded, and giddy. I'm giddy like a teenage girl about the feedback that we've gotten, the ratings, the reviews, and the rankings. Oh my gosh, the rankings. We're showing up on iTunes in the top 200 business podcasts already. In fact, I think we went as high as 130 or so?
I saw 130 for business podcast, and like the highest I saw was 32 for investing.
Some of the reviews that I'm seeing here have hit a nerve with me personally with this jam-packed podcast. That's a great one. Excellent podcast for beginners and noobs as Travis and Joel take crypto out of cryptocurrency mumbo jumbo and techno babble. We can babble all about that techno.
We are babblers. And what was interesting is we got a comment on Facebook that said something along the lines of, I've been trying to study this for about a month, and I learned more in this one podcast than the whole month of me trying to figure it out on my own. So that was pretty.
I'll finish with this piece of praise just because I found it so funny. Yesterday had conversation we both did with a gentleman that works with one of the cryptocurrencies, and apparently he was listening to our show and his wife walked by, and I guess he was turning it down or changing the channel, which I can't imagine why you would, but she said wait, leave that on, because for the first time she actually began to understand what it is he does.
Yes. which is pretty high praise, right? He's leading growth for one of these cryptocurrencies, and she's like, I don't have any idea what he does, but now I kind of understand. So thank you for all of that amazing praise. We really, really appreciate that. It makes us want to keep doing this and putting out great content to help you guys understand what is up.
It is an interesting time to be alive, and my futurist spidey senses are just out of control, tingly with the whole cryptocurrency realm. And there's some, every week we discover some more stuff, and you and I are always back and forth. Like if somebody had, if they were privy to our Facebook Messenger, conversations, they would learn so much just from that, because we're always firing back and forth these articles that we're discovering and these thoughts that we have about the future of this crypto or that crypto. And I think we're basically really, really bullish on this whole thing, aren't we?
Yeah, it's one of those things, because you and I do a lot of research on different topics that we find interesting, and this one right here specifically has been so interesting for us that we've been enraptured by it. And it doesn't make sense to me to think that cryptocurrency is not the future of money, because we are advancing technologically in all aspects of the world, right? And everything's becoming disrupted with technology, and it's such a problem with fiat currency being able to print as much money as they want that this to me makes the most sense because you can't fake this. You can't print cryptocurrency. You can't make more Bitcoin. You're not going to make more Litecoin. And so over time, in theory, the value of those are going to only increase. And by finding and picking the ones that actually are solving something, the ones that have a solution to something, right? The ones that have an intrinsic value, those are going to rise with the tide with Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin. And so, some of them, there's a lot of coins out there that are not good, that are just like, I'm going to create a coin because I can. Well, there may not be any value behind those, and those in the industry are called shit coins, and you do not want to invest in those. So that's why it's so important. We're going to talk about some of these ICOs. We're going to talk about some of these alternative coins, altcoins as they're called, and over time, just to kind of give you some insights into what some of them do. That way you can make the determination if that's something you want to invest in, right? Again, we're never going to make recommendations of which ones that you should buy or shouldn't buy or whatnot. We're not financial investors. We're not advisors. We are financial investors, but not advisors, right? And so that's one of the things is we're learning about this, and we're really good about distilling that information. So we're sharing it with you. You're learning as we're learning, and we're teaching as we're learning, because that's really the best way to truly learn is to teach something. And so it really makes us stay on task and figure this stuff out for you guys.
In other words, do your own due diligence, please. Do not buy or sell any cryptocurrency or anything at all without doing your own due diligence and making investments with your own money. Fair enough?
Sounds fair to me, Mr. Bill Comm.
Now, I am going to ask everybody to do one thing, and that is to, you're kind of part of the tribe now. If you're listening to this podcast, and I know that you are because you're listening right now, then we do need you. We need your support. We need you to go to iTunes or the Google Play Store or Stitcher or SoundCloud or YouTube, wherever it is that you listen. And please, take a moment to just click review, write something for us, or at the very least, just rate us, and hopefully you'll rate us with all thumbs up. But comments are always useful. And go to our page on Facebook or our Twitter account, which are both Bad Crypto, and follow us. In fact, you're listening right now. As you're listening, just go do that and listen to us in the background. Here, I'll take a second so you can go do it. A little elevator music for you while you do that. Now, we're going to talk today about the fork that is coming to Bitcoin. Some of you may have heard about it, and others, you may have heard about a soft fork and a hard fork, and there's a lot of fluctuation right now in what's happening with my Bitcoin. But to do that, I think it's important to set the stage by talking a little bit about a concept that until I understood this, I could not put the pieces together on crypto. And you know what that is, Travis, don't you?
Yeah, Bitcoin mining, right? That's mining. You hear that? That's one of the things, especially when I first started, in Bitcoin and understanding it, and it was like, oh, I got to mine it? I can't just buy it? Well, now you can just buy it, but originally you weren't able to. You had to mine it. And it's kind of a confusing process to try to figure it out, to get it all set up. And, you don't have to, mine to be part of crypto. You can just go to Coinbase and buy some, right? But in the original days, you had to mine. But miners are very, very important, right? And so what is Bitcoin mining? Well, it's the decentralized computational process, which sounds really nerdy. But what it does is it really serves two purposes. It helps, confirm transactions in a trustful manner, right? So when enough computational power or that effort is devoted to these blocks, it helps solve and verify the transactions that have happened within Bitcoin, right? And then after every one of these blocks are solved, that issues and creates new Bitcoins for each block, which generates new currency to then share and distribute.
Right. So Bitcoin and crypto is really all about math. There's not like if you picture a gold mine, right? It's a location, and behind all the rock and charcoal and whatever, there's this gold that miners go in there to dig out. Well, there's not a physical location for Bitcoin. There's 21 million of them that will ever be issued. And the way it was created, and I'm going to do my best to explain here, and I'm sure I'm going to get some of it wrong, but if I get just enough of it right that some light bulbs go on over your head, you go, oh, okay, I understand it enough that I'm good. I don't need to know anymore. Then I'll be happy with that, and we can all move on and join hands and skip and go buy Bitcoin or whatever else we're gonna buy. But there's only 21 million, but they need to be mined over a period of time. And mining is basically somebody owns a computer that runs mathematical calculations, and these calculations at each computer are able to determine if the transactions that are taking place are valid. And they take these transactions and they put them into this block we talked about in our last episode, the blockchain, right? You following with us? And so what the computers do via this math, because math is awesome, it takes the header, which is the first line of the most recent block, and it puts it into a new block. Again, think blockchain, and it's called a hash. Now, enough computers are doing this process of verifying transactions, putting them into the blockchain, and you'll remember, as we talked about last time, that they are solving the proof that the transaction has been done. They call it proof of work. And once the solution is found by multiple machines, miners, right, that are solving this math, it puts into the blockchain and then gets propagated out to the entire network. So let's say that we'll just use $1, okay, $1 worth of Bitcoin. We'll just say 1 Bitcoin, right? 1 Bitcoin is being used in a transaction, Travis, and I send that Bitcoin to your address. Now, there are miners, computers that will pick up on this transaction and verify it. And once a certain number, I think it's 6 for Bitcoin, maybe more, but as many as need to verify and add that verification to the blockchain, each one of them, I don't know if it's one of them or each one of them, get a little piece of the transaction.
I think what ends up happening is the first person to solve that hash, that is the one that then is rewarded out. And right now it's every 15 minutes, 12.5 Bitcoins is then released, right? And so that when you're thinking about who gets the reward, well, there are ways to pool these computational resources. So originally when Bitcoin came out, you could use a regular computer for the most part in mine because those blocks weren't as difficult to solve. And then after, I think, 2016 blocks, which was almost 4 years, then it became more difficult to mine just by a little bit, and then it went from 50 Bitcoins per 15 minutes to then 25 Bitcoins per minute, right? It became more difficult to solve, and the reward became smaller, and you actually need more miners on. Well, then over time, those 25 Bitcoins are worth way more value-wise than those 50 were back in the day. And then I believe in 2016, I think it halved again. And so now it is 12.5 Bitcoins are released every 15 minutes. And that's going to halve again in like 2016, which will then go down to 6.25 or something or whatever it is. And that's going to keep on halving. And I think it's like 100 years before all of the Bitcoins will finally be released. And so it's a process in, that hash is a 256 hash. It's a 256-bit number. And that number is really, really big, and it's very hard to solve. And that's why all these computers are going at it to try to find what that next hash is that solves what solves this transaction. And then once that solves it, boom, it gets announced to everybody out in the network. Then other people verify it. And then boom, that block then is solved and goes into the wall of blocks, which can not be modified or edited at any time.
So I think it's important to note here, this is not people sitting at computers trying to solve, banging out, trying to solve these mathematical problems. Okay, this is all an automated system, and that's why miners have invested in computers, whole banks of computers, right? What do they call them when there's like a whole legion of machines that are solving these Bitcoin?
It's like a server farm of some sort, right? But
yeah, it's the Bitcoin mining farm, exactly.
Yeah, and it used to be where you could use regular computers. Then it became a little bit more advanced, and people needed to use these GPUs, which were your image processing, and that you would use for video games, right? Your GPU on your computer. And then people would say, well, look, I don't even need the whole regular computer. I just need a bunch of GPUs. And so they would stack a bunch of these GPU drives together. And then, then over time, then a whole new thing came out called ant miners, right? Or ASIC miners or something along those lines, which is just huge, very powerful, takes up lots of electricity to run these things. And then the more computational power you have, combined with other people being part of these pools, they're pooling all their power together, that ensures that most likely they're going to get part of those Bitcoin rewards whenever those transactions are then solved. So this is very nerdy stuff. I don't even fully understand this whole process yet.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Well, I kind of do, but I'm lost on some of it. And here's the thing. Here's what you need to take away, okay, and get from this is that there's this finite amount of Bitcoin. It's not all distributed yet, and it goes into the current distribution every time a transaction takes place. A miner gets a little piece. So there's transaction fees related to every transaction that takes place, and every time it's sent, more Bitcoin comes out into the market. So, as of today, if I look at coin market cap, let's see, the current circulating supply of Bitcoin is 16,475,175. That number will go up and continue to go up. The circulation happens when the mining takes place, and that's really, you don't have to imagine the seven dwarves, ho ho, going into with their picks, their picks and shovels and whatever, going into the Bitcoin mine, and they're going to dig out this cryptocurrency. It's not how it works. But the machines can sing hi ho if they want to, as they're pulling these coins into circulation. And we might dig deeper, see what I did there, into Bitcoin mining in a future episode, but I think it was important to kind of set the basic stage for the news that's happening right now, and that's that there is a problem, at least some people think there's a problem with Bitcoin, in that the transactions are slow. In other words, it can take a minimum of 10 minutes for a transaction to go from point A to point B, and sometimes longer. And there's a reason for that. Why is it slow, Travis?
Well, it's interesting because there's become so many transactions that are taking place that they need to be put into priority. They're not always put into priority based on chronological order. They're put in priority based on, how much of a transaction fee are you willing to spend, right? And so that's why some of these transactions, when you're transferring money or you're buying stuff, just kind of like it happens with you're spending something with American Express. Those merchants get charged 2-3%, plus they're making X percent on the amount of money that they loaned you. But so these little transaction fees are part of an incentive for those miners to put that transaction in the block as soon as possible, right? And so once they get put in the block, then they get solved, and then that transfer or that transaction ends up becoming verified by at least six, sometimes more, to verify those. And then, as I said, that transfer, then that transaction happens, and that money is gone, goes to that other destination it was supposed to go. But what's been happening is now Bitcoin has a block size of about 1 megabyte. Well, not about, exactly 1 megabyte. And since there's so many transactions that are trying to fill into these blocks, they're too small. And I think that's one thing. Whenever Satoshi Nakamoto was creating this, he didn't have the foresight or didn't think that, wow, well, as we increase the amount of Bitcoin into the circulation, most likely the block size is going to need to increase to, facilitate more transactions. All right, a credit card company can do millions or some ridiculous amount of transactions per second, and knowing that Bitcoin can only do a small amount because of the limitations of those block size, then what's happening is there is some disagreement within the community of blockchain miners, and they think that these group of miners and developers and investors and Bitcoin users, they want to upgrade the Bitcoin protocol as specified by the user activated hard fork, which
okay. Now let's hold off on that a second. I want to make sure people understand here that this is why Bitcoin is not. I don't know that it's ever going to be really good for actual transactions. There's a lot of tokens and coins that are coming into the market that are designed for fast payments. For example, I sent some Litecoin from one of my accounts to another yesterday or the day before, and it took, it was a minute. And the Litecoin was there. And some of these newer tokens like Stratus and Dash and BitShares are only supposed to take a few seconds, like as quick as a transaction would take place with your Visa, MasterCard, or American Express. They are being designed for consumer use for rapid transactions. And Bitcoin wasn't designed for that. Bitcoin is way more than just a currency. And it's more of a storage of value. However, as Travis said, there are warring factions within the Bitcoin community that want to tackle the problem of increasing the number of transactions that can take place in a period of time, and they're going about it two different ways. So, what is your understanding of what a soft fork is? What the fork is that?
What the fork is the soft fork? Okay, so there's this protocol called segmented witness. And what this is a layer.
Segregated witness.
Segregated? Is that what? Did I say segmented?
Yeah, I think it's segregated witness, which of course nobody would know the difference if I didn't correct you right or wrong. But it is, they're calling it SegWit for short.
SegWit for short. See, this is the bad crypto podcast, and there's evidence of that right there. And but yeah, so segregated. I think I probably call that just accidentally, but I think it's in my brain as segmented. But it's segregated witness, and this is a layer that goes on top of the blockchain that can allow Bitcoin or whichever cryptocurrency to create larger block sizes, from my understanding, to sort of as a layer on top of it, to then allow more transactions to happen per block. And there's another coin called Litecoin, right, that is pretty much the silver to Bitcoin's gold. They implemented SegWit a couple of months ago, and it's running very, very smoothly. And so I think 80+% of the Bitcoin population said, yeah, let's do segregated witness add on to Bitcoin. But there's a small group of people who are against it, that minority. And so they say, we're going to do something totally different. And what are they thinking about doing?
Well, they're talking about a hard fork. And before we talk about what that actual fork is, let's just make sure we understand here that there are people that are looking to solve the problem of how to scale Bitcoin by adding a layer, a stack of code on top of the existing code. And then there are those that are the purists that are saying, no, the code is fine. This is the wrong solution to this problem, or perhaps they're even saying this is the wrong question to begin with, and I'm not going to go that deep because I'll find myself in really deep if I even try to do that. But there's this there's a stigma around upping the block size above the 1 megabyte, and because there is a small group of miners that really kind of, the core miners really kind of control what's going to happen. They're the ones that can either implement code or not implement it. And there's a small group that are going to force a hard fork by developing a new coin, kind of like a spin-off, or like it's like breaking up the Ma Bell into Baby Bells. Is that a good way of looking at it?
I would say, yeah. Now, this is exactly sort of what happened to the Ethereum currency, which that also split into two. So there's Ethereum, and then if you've noticed on Coin Market Cap, Ethereum Classic, it's kind of like Coke Classic, and Ethereum's kind of like New Coke, right? Sort of. But then, so the Ethereum, they were able to implement what was called kind of a Bitcoin improvement process, and they actually it ended up splitting. There was a big failure of the DAO exchange, and they were sort of had some challenges within that, and they said we need to split. So that's why you see an Ethereum one. The Ethereum ETH is its code, and that is worth $200 ish. Ethereum Classic is worth like $15, right? But that was the old Ethereum, but then they made those improvements in the new Ethereum, which is Ethereum now. That is the one that's ongoing now. So what happened, they were trying to avoid that with Bitcoin, and they had this proposition called Bitcoin Improvement Process 91. It looks like BIP 91, which would lead to a soft fork. And then so SegWit was locked in by a majority of the miners. However, some were not happy with SegWit because they think that's sort of a short-term solution at best. And so now it seems that the consensus is not going to be reached by the deadline of August 1st, meaning a hard fork is likely.
Yeah, so basically what's going to happen is there's this new currency that's called Bitcoin Cash with its symbols BCC, right?
BCC or BCH. I think it's going to be BCH because somebody already had BCC. That was what some people are incorrectly calling it, BCC, but I think it's going to be BCH. And you can check that out at bitcoincash.org. That's the official website for that particular new
if
Bitcoin.
If you go to Reddit or the crypto coin forums, people are they're upset about this. There's a lot of FUD, which once we ever refer to FUD, it's fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which you could really apply to just about anything that you're
it's not
fearful.
Elmer FUD. Nothing to do with it. Wascally Wabbits.
Yeah, I'm going to kill the wabbit. Has nothing to do with that. But nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. And so the recommendation for those who have Bitcoin on an exchange, all the exchanges, whether it's Poloniex or Bittrex or Coinbase or any of these, they're all treating how they're going to handle it differently. But the recommendation has been to withdraw your Bitcoin and store it in what's called a wallet, a paper wallet, which is basically your own secure code for where your Bitcoin is kept off an exchange, or there's manufacturers of physical wallets. I actually own a Ledger Nano, which it looks like a little USB stick, and you plug it into a USB cable on your computer, and it transfers your Bitcoin onto this little device. And it's so funny because I think to myself, oh, there's a Bitcoin running around on this little thing I have here, and that way when this fork happens on August 1st. That's the day. So you might be listening to this before. We're talking about it before, just so you know it hasn't happened yet. It's July 28th as we're speaking about this. But if you listen to it after, you'll know the results. Because if you keep it on an exchange, odds are you will wake up to two different currencies in your wallet, some of it in Bitcoin and some of it in Bitcoin Cash. And the big question then becomes, who is going to buy and sell what? What is the value of these going to be? And so some people project that Bitcoin is going to have a big crash because the value, will have gone down since it split. Others say people are going to avoid Bitcoin Cash and sell it as quickly as possible and put their money into Bitcoin. And the truth of the matter is, no one knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's an enigma. And so when
wrapped in a mystery.
Yes.
Wrapped in bacon.
jalapeno style. No, but it's really interesting to take a look at this, because now if you have, say you have 5 Bitcoin, once this split happens, you will have 5 Bitcoin and now 5 Bitcoin Cash, because that whole blockchain, right, that whole history of transactions, it's going to fork, meaning every transaction before that, you will, if you own that coin in Bitcoin, well, you own it in Bitcoin Cash because it has split and it has gone into 2 different directions. But then after that has split, then all of those transactions moving forward are going to be different on each one of those particular blockchains. So in theory, in my unexpertise or my unexpert opinion, I think that, you know, if Bitcoin right now, it's actually been increasing in value, or today it went up pretty substantial. It went up to like $2,800, and then a lot of the other altcoins, they were sort of falling today, which is interesting. But I think on August 1st, it would not surprise me for Bitcoin Cash to be worth between $400 and $800 is what I'm seeing. But then that $400 and $800 being taken from the value of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's $2,800, let's say Bitcoin will now be $2,000, and then Bitcoin Cash would be $800. And then from there, we're going to see which goes where, and then what happens, and the values of those. So I don't know. It's one of those things. Do we get rid of our Bitcoin prior to? Do you get more? So you can take advantage of both of those. Do you?
I'm hodling. I'm hodling. What you'll remember
hodling?
is hold on for dear life, because again, I'm not in this to trade. I'm in cryptocurrency for the long term. I believe, like, let's say Bitcoin does have a collapse. Let's say it goes down to 1,500 a coin. To me, personally, and this is not a recommendation, disclaimer number 532, I see that as an opportunity to buy, because I believe the value of Bitcoin is going to go up. And so I see any crash as an opportunity, because you want to buy low and sell high. And if everybody else is panicking and selling, it's because they're trading. They're looking at the value of, what can I make today? My money is tied into this now, whereas, I need to make profits now. That's not what investors do. Investors see dips as opportunities, always contrarian. So I don't know what's going to happen. I know I've got my Bitcoin stored off exchanges, and when August 1st comes, I have no idea what it's going to be worth, and I'm okay with that, because I'm in this for the long haul. I'm looking at 5 years. Okay, I'm not planning on selling hardly anything unless there's a huge rise. I want to take a little money off the table. I'm not looking at selling. This is a long-term play for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things that if you're still listening to this podcast on episode 4, you know that it's a completely fascinating space. And the more that you learn about it, the more intrigued you get, and then the more rabbit holes you go down, and then you start to understand more components of how it all works. And, knowing that there's only a finite amount of these over time, right? They're not going to make any more unless they keep deciding to do these forks. then maybe there will be more down the road. But it would create
Stop
this whole
forking with me.
Yeah.
Can't we just spoon instead? I mean, it's just so much nicer and warm and fuzzy.
That's great. So that's a little bit of an insight on that. So there's some different great resources out there. So if you have Bitcoin, you are going to receive Bitcoin Cash. That is it's interesting to see. So keep an eye on it. Pay attention to see what's going on. It's interesting developments. And again, nobody really knows what's going to happen, because once you put emotion into it and people freaking out, there's a great quote by Warren Buffett, who obviously one of the top investing people in the world. He's not really bullish on cryptocurrency, however, because he likes physical companies that are going to be around for 100 years. That's just his kind of philosophy. But he says this. He goes, be patient when other people are greedy, and be scared when other people are greedy, and be greedy when other people are scared. So it's like
Yes. Yeah. That reminds me of another great quote by Buffett. If life gives you limes, make margaritas. But that was Jimmy Buffett who said that.
Jimmy Buffett, yes. Yeah.
But I can't.
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference. I mean, I'm not sure which. I think they're both probably right. They come from a long line of Buffettry. And wait, here's another great one of his I just pulled up. Is it ignorance or apathy? Hey, I don't know and I don't care.
Right. Here's another one. You can have multiple plates here at Golden Buffett.
Hey, you've been listening to the Bad Crypto Podcast, and now you know as much as we do, which is to say, not much. That's why we're bad. And where can our Bad Crypto Tribe track us down, Travis?
Well, they can connect with us on pretty much any of the favorite top podcast places in the world. You can listen to it. Well, you're obviously listening to us right now, so you don't got to connect with us there because you're already hearing us. So you want to connect with us on Twitters. We're Bad Crypto. You can connect with us on Facebook, Bad Crypto. And we will be creating a Bad Crypto Mastermind group. So all of our top listeners who want to be part of an exclusive group, you can. So stay tuned for that. And then also,
let me say something about that. By the way,
Yeah.
we are speaking with people at crypto companies, and we're trying to work it out where we can get you guys some coins just for being part of our community. So you want to keep listening. There's no promises as of yet. I'm kind of excited about the possibility of there being some extra perks for being part of the Bad Crypto Tribe. I don't know. Should I be sorry that I just said that, Travis? Or are we good?
I think if something falls through with the couple that we're chatting with, I mean, there's 800, 900 of them out there. So,
Right.
If you guys love the show and you want to be part of it, and you work with a crypto company, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can connect with us at badcryptopodcast@gmail.com. And then one final place, if you're on YouTube and you can check out our videos, which are basically our podcast, but we are going to start interviewing people in future episodes, and those live interviews will be available on YouTube as well. So you'll be able to see our my ugly mug and Joel's super handsome mug eventually.
Yeah, I don't drink coffee, so I don't even have a mug. But and also, this is where we take our hats off. It's a digital hat, and we are like beggars on the street. You can actually support this podcast in a couple ways. We are speaking with potential sponsors for the show, but if you personally really like what you're hearing and want to say, yeah, Travis, Joel, keep doing what you're doing, there's a couple ways to do that. One, go sign up at Coinbase.com. You'll see in the show notes we have an affiliate link that will give you $10 in free Bitcoin, which if you do it quickly, and I think you have to buy like $100 worth of currency in order to trigger the $10 free. If you do it quickly, then your Bitcoin will be Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash on August 1st. Otherwise, it'll be just, afterwards, if you buy Bitcoin, it'll be Bitcoin. And when you get $10 in Bitcoin, we get $10 in Bitcoin. And of course, the other way you can support is with donations. If you'll look on the podcast or on our webpage, you will see our addresses for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. And you may send us, as we like to say, copious amounts, which there's no actual designation to how much in a copious. There's a cup, there's a tablespoon, there's ounces, and then there's copious. And so how much you determine to copious to be, feel free to encourage us and send some digital currency our way, and we will be grateful. We'll even do a little dance for you. In fact, I'm doing one right now.
I'm not going to dance. I'm not going to dance. Not at all.
Oh yeah.
There is one final way that you can support as well, is whichever podcast platform that you are listening to our show on, may it be SoundCloud or iTunes or Google Play, go in there. And iTunes is kind of weird. If you're already subscribed to the podcast, it's really hard to find where to leave the review. You actually go down to the little search button, type in Bitcoin or Ethereum. We pop up on all those terms, but type in Bad Crypto and then go into our show, and then you'll be able to see the reviews. Click on the reviews tab, and then you can leave a rating or a review right there. If you're just subscribed to it and you go to it, iTunes makes it really hard to find where to leave a review, so that becomes a little bit of a challenge, but that's the workaround.
And you might even get a shout out like this review from the '01 Biglar. Thanks for the podcast. It took me a month to understand what your first episode explained with blockchain and Bitcoin. In other words, it took him a month to get it, but we explained it in one episode, and he would have gotten it if he had listened to us first. Your mother would recommend this show, and I don't know about your mother, but my mom recommends everything I do.
She's very supportive. My mom is like, what? She barely understands the internet. So I don't know. This whole Bitcoin thing is just above her pay grade at this point, probably.
My mom's actually an internet sensation on her own. 12 years ago, she started blogging. I helped her get a blog set up because she's a world traveler. Literally, she is always going somewhere. Half the year she's traveling. In fact, she just got back from her first trip to Madagascar to see the lemurs because she likes to move it. And she started a site called Travels with Sheila. So here's a free ad for you, Mom. Travelswithsheila.com. She's got a YouTube channel that's, get this, Travis, over 19 million views to her videos.
Wow. Nice.
She's amazing, and you guys can go check out her stuff and tell her that her son sent you over to her, and then have her send her viewers back to me because I could use them as well. Take us home, Travis.
Yes, thanks again for tuning in to the Bad Crypto Podcast. This has been episode number 4. What the fork is going on with Bitcoin? Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you to my co-host, Mr. Joel Comm, and thank you to you who are listening to us. We really appreciate the support. We'll see you guys next time.
Stay bad.